What's up, Scoop Podcast? I'm your host, Erica Kroopin, and today I have the pleasure of chatting with Ryan. What's up, Ryan?
How's it going, Erica? Thanks for
Uh,
having me.
it's going good. It's going good now. We talked a little bit off air. I was on a struggle bus trying to learn this new MacBook, and thank you so much for being patient with me.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. So you are the owner of Coastal Pooper Scoopers LLC, right?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, cool. Well, give us a little I don't know, a 15-20 second spiel about your business and who you are.
All right. Well, again, Ryan with Coastal Pooper Scooper. We service the Myrtle Beach area, the Grand Strand. It's about a 60-mile stretch of beach. We take about 80% of that we service. And yeah, it's just my big thing is getting that poop off the ground. And yeah, I'm more of I'm not an environmentalist by any means, but that's my focus, is the environmental impact, especially because we have the Atlantic Ocean, we've got the intercoastal waterway. So that's usually my big what I use to try to sell, you
Yeah.
know, and get clients, is been going with that health hazard route.
Yeah, we all have our own selling points and what we try to focus on. And people will ask me like, "Well, who's your ideal customer?" Me personally, my ideal customer is that busy person. Yes, they care about their environment, but realistically, at the end of the day, they care about their time and they'd
Right.
much rather do other things than scoop the
Exactly.
poops. So that's what I focus on. But I'm glad that you're able to focus on that, and super jealous that you're in the Myrtle Beach area.
Yeah, it's great. I love it. We're 50-50. We're mountain people. That's where we moved from, and we're beach people. Can't afford Hawaii though, so we're stuck with one or the other.
Well,
So,
my friend moved to North Carolina recently, and she's from here. And I Marco Polo with her on this like video chatting
oh
app.
yeah.
And I see in the background, it's beautiful, it's sunny, she's sweating. And here there's snow on the ground, it's
Right.
rain, snowing, and it's just abysmal. And so I get to live vicariously through her a little bit. You you're from, or you're
Uh,
in South Carolina.
yeah,
Where are you
yeah.
from?
We're from my wife and I. We're from the Northern Virginia area. She's a Marylander. I'm a Virginia. About 45 minutes west of DC. So
Okay.
it's unique area, a lot of population, but like I said, we were up on the mountains, so best of both worlds.
Hiking? Do you like to hike?
Yeah, we were the house we owned was maybe a mile from the Appalachian Trail. So that was great. We always had that option. We had the river. My family has a lot on the river back home, so we like to go there and spend the night in the camper, campfires, fishing, that kind of stuff.
So you're used to being outdoors.
Yeah.
So starting the poop scooping business wasn't like I don't know, probably wasn't that big of a deal for you, right?
No, not at all. I've worked outdoors more or less my entire life. Yeah, so now the Myrtle Beach summers, that's a little different. I've gone 2 years here, almost 2.5 years here, and still adjusting to that. As needed, the humidity is, it says it's 90 degrees. I'm telling you, it's 110. So
Oh, that sucks.
yeah.
That is really tough. But you're adjusting now. So what made you start the poop scooping business?
Uh, so I've always been the kind of guy that eh, I'm not content with just a career and a retirement and that pension check, that I have to wait until I'm, what is it, 55, 60, 65, whatever it is, depending on your state. And
Right.
so I've always been looking for ways to make more money. Prior to this, I actually owned a bounce house rental business. It was called Shamrock Inflatables. And my full-time schedule at the time wasn't very conducive for that,
Yeah.
because I worked every other weekend at the time. So I had to rely on my wife, my dad, my brother. They would help me out with that. Um, and that failed ultimately due to COVID. Nobody wanted 20 kids jumping around in a bounce house with COVID running around, and so we shut that down. And but the main, so again, like I said, just trying to get that side hustle money, pay off the debt, pay the bills. Ultimate goal is to be able to say, hey, hon, let's go to Ireland this week, with no plan.
Stop it.
Well, I've already been, we've been, but that's the goal, is to just be able to wake up one day and say, hey, this is all handled. Let's go on a, 3-4 day vacation wherever we want. But I was working late one night. I was doing armed security at the time. And, um, we were walking the dogs every day. We were living in a really small rental right down by the beach, which was great. The rental wasn't so great. And we didn't have a yard, so we had to walk the dogs all the time. And nobody's picking up the dog poop. So we were stepping in it every day, 3-4 times a day. And one day my wife got pissed off and she grabbed our pooper scooper. She went down the street to the little park and started scooping. And she came back and said, we can make money doing that. So again, I was about 2 a.m. in the morning, at work, and armed security. And I was just kind of Googling and, in one of my little downtime moments. And, I started looking into the pooper scooper thing, and I actually came across you on Side Hustle Nation. I don't know if you remember that article or not.
No,
Uh,
I do. That was my very first podcast that I was on, and
okay.
I'm so grateful that you found it.
Yeah. So, I found that, I read the whole thing. I said, holy crap, it's, we can do that. My schedule at the time, I was working nights, so I had all day to do that kind of thing. So probably within a month of finding that article with you, I had the business up and running. That would have been May of 2021. So we're close to 2 years now.
Yeah, are you guys gonna celebrate your 2-year birthday?
Yeah, I don't know how, probably scooping, but we'll
Well,
figure something out.
do like a Facebook post. Those usually do pretty
Yeah,
well. You're like,
yeah.
it's the birthday. I always forget to do it, but I see other scoopers do it, and it's such a
Mhm,
good idea. Such a good idea. But actually,
definitely.
I wanted to circle back. So when you said about the bounce house business and
Mhm.
about how COVID took it down, in all fairness, before COVID, nobody really wants 20 kids over at their house. They just have
Ah,
to
you're right. Yeah.
because because
Yeah,
of their
yeah.
kid because of
We
their
we don't
kids.
have kids, we've just got dogs. But no, I totally understand it. Having to clean, we have the no candy, no
Yeah,
food rule for the bounce house. Chocolate is actually has a very negative effect on the vinyl that makes the bounce house. It can actually deteriorate the vinyl over time. But yeah, you get 20 kids in there, the parents aren't paying attention, they're jumping around with cupcakes, and next thing you know, you got chocolate wedged into all the stitching, and it was a nightmare. So,
much rather scoop dog poop, right?
oh yeah, yeah, it's cleaner.
Yeah, seriously. I tell people that all the time when they're like, why would you want to do that? I'm like, I would rather do this than any, like, go back to the pharmacy or do
Right.
any of the healthcare that I ever did, because it wasn't for me, and I'm super happy that you were able to find it. So what does your business look like today?
So today we're over 60 clients, residential and commercial. And
That's
commercial,
amazing.
I include your multifamily dwellings in that, obviously, apartments and such. Uh, 6 days a week now, actually. I've got one commercial client that it's about a 2 to 3 hour job. So I moved that over to the weekend, and so now we're a 6 day business. Yeah, but like we were talking about before, some days we can be done by noon. It just depends on how the route goes and if it's just me or both my wife and I are working.
Now, are you going to stay 6 days a week, or are you going to try to hire and
If
condense?
I can, so I did have a part-time employee up until recently. If I can rework the routing a little bit, I would prefer to move that one back into the, Monday through Friday. It just kind of comes down to, are they okay with, I have to do like Monday one week, Tuesday the next, because I still work a full-time job.
Mm.
Um, so I have to work around that scheduling to make that happen. And if they're okay with that, then I'll do that. But like I said, by yourself, it's a 3 hour job. Um, so not
Is
sure
it
if I,
is it an apartment complex, or why does it take so long? What is it?
it is. It's an apartment complex. And it's large. That's what it comes down to. It's about if you do it by yourself with the back and forth, you're looking at about a 5 mile walk. Uh,
Oh, that's a doozy.
so yeah, so it's one of those. It doesn't seem like a lot until you're actually out there walking between the buildings and all that. So that one commercial client is the reason we're 6 days. But we don't mind it, because my wife and I would tackle it together. So I like to consider that our quality time, part of our quality time together. She might not, but works for
I'm gonna
me.
say we're gonna have to have her hop on and tell us.
Right.
That's funny. So I actually get a lot of questions about commercial properties, and I only have two of them myself, so I don't have a ton of experience. Did you find this property or did they find you?
So they found me. That's actually been the case with all three. And this one, they actually found me about 3 or 4 months after I opened the business. And I gave them a quote, and thankfully, things just didn't work out because um, I was very low on the quote that I gave them, but I didn't know any better. I
Right.
was maybe 3 or 4 months into the business. Um, and we went back and forth for about a year. Um, it's one of those property management companies that requires, that X, Y, and Z. You got to have this level on your general liability and your workers' comp. And so it was a nightmare just trying to meet all of those criteria, which I am licensed and insured. I have all that, but they need it a little bit more. So I still wanted to do it. So I gave them a new quote, which would cover that increase in my workers' comp and commercial auto, and so it works out. We do make money off of it. We're not just breaking even or losing. And they were more than happy to go, with that quoted amount. Um, it's been a great working relationship so far. He emails me probably once a week or every 2 weeks, just checking in. So I'm glad that it took a year and a half to get there, but they're a great client, so I'm glad to have them on.
Yeah, so for those of you that are watching or listening, commercial properties, if you don't know, are different than residential. And just like Ryan said, you have to have a certain level of insurance because they want that. Each vehicle needs to be insured. They might want to see all of your employees, all the workman's comp for that.
Yeah,
And you have to be very specific when you're putting together your quote, what you will do, what you won't do. If you're supplying the bags, if you're doing pet waste stations, are you not supplying the bags? Do they want you to maintenance those stations
yeah.
if they break? You have to include all of that and ask all of those questions. Because I didn't in the beginning and I almost got myself into a pickle, but they actually went with another company. So I was like, oh, thank goodness.
Right.
Okay, cool. So today, what's your main focus in your business right now?
I'd say the main focus, like I was saying, is that I try to go off of that health hazard aspect of dog waste is not fertilizer. Um,
Right.
it can be, but that's probably an expensive route, to turn it into the fertilizer. Just the bacteria that, I mean, we I think pretty much anybody in the business kind of knows by now, but the parva possibilities, the bacteria, the parasites, it's going to kill your grass. A lot of people, I've run into a lot of people that seem to think that it's a good fertilizer. And so the educational side, but I also want to expand the business with the commercial aspect.
Mhm.
It's a lot of work. We see it every week in the that Facebook group that shall not be named. Um, and everybody struggles with the commercial side. But I think it's worth it. If you can price it right, if you find a good enough property management company, I think it's worth it. So that's where I think the focus is going to go for this year.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely. Those, I mean, it's money
yeah,
for
absolutely. And
sure.
obviously, we're still going to build the residential. I just signed on another one today. Um, yeah, but I'd like to see close to a dozen commercial by the end of the year. It's probably wishful thinking, but we'll see.
Put it out in the universe.
Right.
Ooh, I hope you get that. I will be like, yes, heck
Right. We'll
yeah.
be going to Ireland next week. Yeah.
So that's crazy that you say that. When you said Ireland, I almost freaked out because I actually have a 5-year plan. I do want to go to Ireland for like an entire month. I have
Yeah.
started planning my vacation, like the itinerary. I've never been,
Mhm.
but I want to build up my business enough to where I could leave for a month and go to Ireland and just check in.
Well, I don't know about a month. Yeah,
Is that too long? That's
we
too long?
well, it depends. We spent 9 days, and we focused on the west coast of Ireland. So we flew into Shannon. We wanted the old Ireland experience. So we stayed away from Dublin, and the East Coast is very Americanized is not the right word, and they might get offended if you say that too. But it's very 21st century on the East Coast of Ireland. A lot of IT jobs, a lot of office jobs, but the West Coast is still very rural. It's farming, it's fishing. Southwest Ireland, I don't think they had electricity until like 1975. Um,
Wow.
so it's a great experience doing the West Coast. You get that old Ireland feel. A lot of people over there actually still speak Gaelic, which makes talking pretty tough because you get that Gaelic Irish accent while they speak English, and it's not English. I don't know what it is, but um, so I would recommend doing a lot of the West Coast. But if you're going to try to do a month, you got the whole island. You
That's
might as
what I was
well.
saying. I
Yeah.
wanted to do it all. I told my husband, I was like, we're doing it all. We're going to start at the bottom and we're just going boop, 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 boop,
Yep.
work our way all the way up
Yep.
in
And
theory.
it's easy to do. You can actually do coast to coast in like 5 hours if you just drive. I mean, without stopping.
Oh, I want to stop. I want to eat. I want to drink. I
Yeah.
want to
Yeah.
shop. I want to lounge. I want to do
Right.
all of the things.
Yeah. So, but it's that small. You'd think it'd be a little bit bigger, but I mean, you can get there in a morning. You from West Coast to East Coast, but there it's packed full of stuff. So you'll when you finally do get to that point, you'll have a lot of fun over there.
Yeah. So are you well traveled? Have you been to a lot of places?
I wouldn't say well traveled, more like the armpits of the world,
Uh,
with the exception of Ireland. I'm a former Marine, so a lot of deployment to the Middle East. So, like I said,
Thank
the
you for your
armpit
service.
well, thank you. So yeah, Afghanistan, Germany, um, Kuwait, uh, Kyrgyzstan or Kazakhstan, one of the two. They look the same on paper, so I'm not entirely sure which one it was. Um, but yeah, so as far as fun traveling, Ireland, the Caribbean, and then America. We spent a couple days out in Montana back in October, um, and I've probably spent or I've probably seen 2/3 of the country. Not so much, Michigan and down. I haven't done the middle, um, so I'll put that on the to do list, I guess.
Yep. Added to the bucket list. I got a whole bucket full.
Yeah.
Now, would you say that your experience as a Marine has helped you be structured and organized with your business?
Yeah. So obviously they ingrain a lot of that mentality into you in the Marine Corps. And I even took that into law enforcement. I've done a little bit of everything.
Yeah, you
Uh,
have.
Law enforcement. Right now, I'm a career fireman, um, and so I've done both of those. So it's all a lot of structure in all three of those fields. Um, I do tend to procrastinate. Yeah, I don't have somebody screaming at me anymore to keep me in line. So I do procrastinate, but if you could see my desk right now, I mean, it looks like a bomb went off. Um, but it does help. I have in my head, I have A, B, C, and D. I check them off as I go. So I try to carry that with me throughout the week. Um, when it comes to scheduling new clients and paying the bills, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, keeping yourself organized has been something I struggled with. Right now in camera, I look like I am well put together. My desk is a disaster. I got I got stuff all over the place. And I didn't grow up having that structure. So that's something that I'm like desperately trying to work on every single day.
Yep.
So I'm glad that you're able to have that. So you've been in business for 2 years, which you have 60 customers already. That's amazing. What would you say your top three biggest accomplishments are that you're really proud of?
Um, I think for us, the top three was I had it written down somewhere because I forget everything. Uh, so, not failing for one.
Ooh,
The bounce house business that failed. We,
COVID messed that up. It's
yeah,
COVID's fault.
and statistically, a lot of times people's first business is going to be a failure. Um, and not always the case. So if this is your first business, don't get discouraged, because I won't say it's easy to do, but it's a good business. But I think the community outreach and awareness aspect that's been going well. But yeah, most recently was the freedom for my wife. She was able to quit her full-time job. Uh,
Woo!
and yeah, exactly.
That's amazing.
She makes more doing this now. She's scooping full time, um, which is great. Like I said, I had that part-time employee, which was a great milestone as well. I didn't have the funds to really hire him, so we were breaking even basically, and I had some full-time work commitments that forced me into hiring a part-timer. So we hired probably 6 months to a year ahead of schedule. Like I said, we just weren't ready. But he set the groundwork while he ran the business for me full time, basically operationally. I did everything administratively still, and he got in his 3 months that he was with us, we probably signed on another 15 clients. So I owe a lot of the growth to him. He helped get the business to where I could bring my wife on full time. Um, so I think that's the biggest achievement. I don't think I'll be going full time with the business probably for another year or two. I'd like to see our client numbers double before I even entertain that. And the main reason is because my job has the benefits for the family.
Yes. And like buying your own benefits are very expensive. I
It
carried the
is.
benefits for our household, and that was one of the deciding factors. But my husband's like, listen, you were so unhappy. I was spending so much money in therapy,
Yeah.
so much money just because I wasn't where I needed to be. Like, I still go to therapy, I still spend money, but it's not nearly as much. And so that actually like kind of outweighed it
Right.
with with the copay. So,
Yeah.
yeah, but getting your pricing right and then just crunching the numbers to figure out like where you would break even and then what you would need to actually pull the trigger.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but I'm really excited that your wife. So is she a stay-at-home dog mom?
Yeah, I guess technically you could call her that now. Yeah.
Jealous.
Which is what she's always wanted to be. So it worked out.
Same, but
Yeah.
it's never gonna happen for me. My dog actually doesn't like me. She likes my husband more.
Yeah. You could argue that with ours. We have two. And yeah, when I come home from work in the mornings, she's yeah, they're all about me. So
Mm, it's not fair.
yeah,
It's not
I don't
fair.
get it. I'm not here half the time, so
I think it has something to do with a deeper voice.
yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Maybe. Well, do you punish the dog? Because I'm the one that's actually like the punisher. Like if she gets in trouble, I take her to the vet. I do all the things.
Mhm.
So maybe that's why she's like every time I
Um,
come around, I'm in trouble.
I don't know. No, she does a lot of the work, honestly. It's just because of the way my schedule goes with the full-time job. She's feeding them most of the time, letting them out most of the time. Um, I would argue that they're more spoiled because of her. Um, but I spoil them too. We have gotten away from proper discipline, but hey, they're good dogs, so can't.
Exactly. they're not here for a long time, just a good
Right,
time, right?
right. Got to make it worth it.
Absolutely. But you know what? I hopped right into asking you some of the questions that I wanted to ask, and I totally forgot to ask you this. This is a question that the our viewers, our community wants to know. They want to know about your first time. Tell us about your first scoop.
So my first scoop, it was probably a month after I had opened the business. And it, so I opened the business and it just, I did Facebook advertising. I had a Google ad going. Didn't really have the money, so it was very, very small budget. So
Yep.
I didn't get a whole lot of reach. Um, but I had a lady reach out and she wanted to know the numbers. And at the time, it was a side hustle. So I was one of those $10 a week
Yeah.
side hustle scoopers. And she signed on right away. I think it was a Friday, so my wife happened to be off from her job at the time. And so we went over there, introduced ourselves, explained how it was all going to work, and it was fortunate. The main reason that she had hired us was she has bad reactions to mosquito bites. And we're in South Carolina. It's nothing but swamp and just water everywhere down here. Yeah, it's sandy soil, so the water doesn't drain very well. Um, so her backyard in the summertime is just full of mosquitoes.
Dang.
And her husband, he travels from time to time, so there was just nobody to pick up. And so she saw me on Facebook, and I instantly clicked on it, and it's been great. So she was my first ever client, and we're still going strong. Um, so it's like I said, almost 2 years, and I've been fortunate. I've only lost two in my almost 2 years. Um, but she's great. She'll post on Facebook. She'll tag the business in there and try to get it out to her friends. And she's a business owner as well, so get a little bit of outreach. When she'll post. She's reviewed us and she shares it every chance she gets. So definitely a great client to have, and I'm glad she was the first client. So
Yeah, you couldn't ask for anything better, especially like you said in the beginning, you didn't have a lot of money to, promote, which a lot of us don't, in the beginning. So when you turn those customers into raving fans, priceless,
absolutely, yeah.
absolutely priceless. I'm happy to hear that for you. I'm glad it wasn't an awful experience where you're like, oh, I showed up at this house and it was terrible. It was 52 bags and I only charged $10.
Right.
I, I was worried. I was like, is it going to be bad like that?
And I do have a few clients like that. And they're good people. The yards are just they're the dogs. I don't know what it is about the dogs, but they can't be solid. It's got to be runny. And but the clients themselves are great. They're great people. So it's not a yard I'm gonna drop. I can put up with it, as long as the interactions are great, and so I'll put up with an occasional nasty yard here and there.
I usually will too, as long as the money's right.
Right.
Well, it sounds like you had an overall positive experience with your business.
Yeah, I can't complain. We haven't had any downside really to it yet. Like I said, I panicked back in December, when like I said, I'm a full-time firefighter, and I had to go get my EMT certification, and it was a 10-week Monday through Friday class.
Wow.
And I said, "Uh-oh, yeah, that's it."
Yeah.
I'm at the point now where I can't put 60 plus clients on a Saturday, Sunday. Um, and I wasn't willing to lose clients either there was one point where I had to suspend services for about 3 weeks, about a year ago. And I didn't lose anybody then either. Really didn't get any pushback, but it just didn't sit right with me. So then when the potential to shut down for 10 weeks came, I was like, I don't have a choice. I've got to find somebody. And I was fortunate. I found a gentleman. He had just moved from New York, just recently retired. He was looking for something to do. Um, basically he was looking for extra cash to pay his health insurance premium for him and his family. And
Yeah.
he gave me the number, and I said, "Well, you're in luck because that's exactly what I can pay you." And
You're like, it's perfect.
yeah, it really was. All the cards lined up. So he kind of saved the business. Not that I don't think the business would have failed, but I think I easily could have lost 20 clients had I, if I had to shut down.
Yeah, if you had to shut down for 2.5 months, I mean, that's basically almost a quarter.
It
Um,
is, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
that would have been rough. Oh, I'm glad you were able to find that guy. So would you say that like as you're growing, would you say this is part of like your growing pains, trying to find another staff member?
Um, yeah. So he actually he put in his 2 weeks last month. His last day was actually March 3rd. Um, and he told me, he said, look, my his union, the retirement, they doubled his premiums, and so he needed more money, and we're just not in that position yet. So he told me, he said, I have no choice. I love working with you, but I got to find something full time or benefits. And I get it. Um, so I did advertise again, and we use Indeed, and it's been great. We get at least a dozen applicants every time we try Indeed, and maybe interview three or four of them.
Yep.
But we almost always find somebody. And this last go around, I was in panic mode, because he he quit, and I still had a week to go where I was still doing things with the full-time job. So I had to move clients around. I ended up doing my entire week's worth of clients in 2 days. So those were like 12, 13-hour days. Uh,
Dang, yeah.
and I talked to two people over the phone. Oh yeah, we're interested. I said, well, I sent you an email, fill this out, return it, and they never did. And I'd been jokingly pestering my wife about, full-time scooper gig, and she's joked about it before too. Um, and so I just kind of started hitting her with it a couple times a day for a week. It was like, yeah, this you can work from home, you can get up whenever you want, as long as you're on the road by this time and the client list gets done by 5 o'clock, I'm happy.
Right.
So make it your own, do what you want as long as that route gets done. And we went over the numbers were great. She actually makes more money doing the pooper scooper job than she did with her full-time job. um, and it was tough for her. She has a great group of, or had a great group of coworkers. The job not so much, but when you have a good group of coworkers, it can sometimes, it's tough to leave.
Yeah.
um, but we got some good friends and family down here, so got her through it. She jumped on board. Her first day was actually this past Friday. So today was her third day scooping, and she's loving it. We get up whenever we want. Um, just spend the morning with the dogs, actually sit down and do breakfast. Nobody's rushing out the door, and um, so it worked out. Now with her full time, I no longer have to worry about the full time job getting in the way. And then my days off, um, I'll go out and scoop too. So like I said today, we did 15 clients in 5 hours. Um, and fortunately, Tuesdays our route density is very tight.
That's good. Yeah,
So
that's good.
so that helps too. I have a couple of days of the week where it's 150 miles on the truck in one day. Um, so it's
I think
trying.
another goal
Yeah,
of yours is to work on that route density.
absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
You said 120 miles?
Yeah, anywhere from I think my shortest day is 80. And yeah, it can get up to like 150.
I'm
So
gonna make you feel a little bad here. My furthest house is like 12 miles from my house.
Yeah. Well,
That's
now
my furthest one.
if you go, as the crow flies, probably 15 miles is the furthest house. But we're along the beach. We've got the intercoastal waterway, so there's only so many ways over the waterway, and
Yeah,
yeah,
that's true.
so
That
uh,
that's something a lot of people struggle with is that route
mhm,
density. Because when you start your business, right, you'll take customers wherever because you're
right.
just excited. You just
Yep.
want to work. And then you get one customer here, and then somebody comes on and they're just maybe 2 miles a little further. And then
Yep.
all of a sudden you're like so far out on a Friday. That was me, my situation. And my Fridays turned into FU Fridays. I was working 13-hour days on Friday. I said, "No,
Right.
no, we're not doing this again." So I had to do a complete rehaul on my routing. That was tough. That was really
Yeah.
tough.
And it was the same thing. When I started the business, I said, okay, I'm going to focus on um, North Myrtle Beach, which is it's a separate city from Myrtle Beach. A lot of people don't realize that. They just, oh, it's just the north side of Myrtle. It's a totally different city. The borders are like a mile apart, but and there's so much development here, you'll never know when you enter one and leave the other. But that was my goal, was I'm just going to focus on this area. And I got the one client who was actually outside of North Myrtle Beach, but 10 minutes from the house. So that was a no-brainer.
Right.
But then after that, I think literally my next 15 clients were all 30 minutes away.
Mm,
It's like, and I took the first one obviously because hey, it's money.
right.
And then it just started. They all start. So I drive first thing in the morning. I just because of traffic and everything. I drive the 30 minutes. I start at the furthest point away, and then I work my way home. Um, so they, the mornings are the routing is tight in the morning because the majority of my clients are in that one area, south of Myrtle. And then from there, it just kind of starts to get, oh, here and there. And there's a good 15-20 minute drive in between each one from there.
When you're doing it yourself, those drives are nice, right? Because you're like, "Oh, I get a break," or, "Oh, I
Right.
get to, send a text message." But
Yep.
then what I realized is when I started hiring and then I would see the drive and what I was paying and I was adding that up,
Yeah.
that's when I was like, "All right, I gotta tighten this route up. I
Right.
can't do
Yeah.
this."
No, it was the same thing. My part-time employee, he's great. He's very meticulous. Uh, excuse me. Very meticulous. I mean, he would leave no leaf unturned. I mean, he would check every single leaf to make sure there wasn't a pile under it. But that meant, a yard that took me 5 to 10 minutes has taken him 15 to 20 minutes. And then there's the drive in between. And so, I hired him to do 20 hours a week. And within 3 months, he was pushing 34 or 35 hours a week. So the budget was getting very, very tight there right before he ended up leaving. Um, so yeah, finding an employee that's gonna, you know, be thorough but also be quick, so that you get the most bang for your buck. It's tough.
It is tough, and it's like you have to keep reminding them of, like, what your average is, and, like, I my average is usually 3 an hour. That's what how I have
Yeah.
my prices set up, and that's what I need to hit.
Mhm.
But what I've been doing recently is I have a hybrid model where they can either be hourly or if they're hitting more than 3 an hour, they can be paid commission.
Oh
So
yeah.
they get a commission per house, and that's what I've been doing with my last 2 employees. They love it. They absolutely love it. So, I think I'm gonna continue with the hybrid model to kinda give that flexibility and figure out what they want to do.
Right. Yeah.
That's what's cool about this business is like we have the flexibility. We can run it the way that we see fit. And just with you, you were able to move all of your houses into 2 days and get everything done. So then you were able to do everything else you needed to do. Where else can you do that at?
Right. Yeah. That's why I love it. Yeah, you literally you make it your own. Whatever fits you and what you need to get done. Now obviously you want to keep, the client in mind, but you got to do what you got to do at the end of the day. And yeah, I can't think of another line of work, you know, that
No.
gives you that flexibility. So
And it's nice. It's nice. So how do you handle the stress? Because you're working a full-time job and you're running a business.
Copious amounts of whiskey. Uh,
Ooh, do you have a certain brand you like?
what's that?
You have a certain brand you like?
Anything Irish.
Oh, okay.
Jameson, Redbreast, Powers, any Irish whiskey, I'll drink it. But no, I try to find a work and life balance, and that's something they preach in law enforcement and in the fire department world as well. Because a lot of people will literally just pick up every shift they can and spend 3/4 of the month at the firehouse. Well, now your home life is falling apart.
Yeah.
And this can be the same way. I before my wife became my partner in the business, um, I would go to work for 24 hours, so I wouldn't see her for a whole 24 hours, and then she's out the door and on her way to her job before I even get home the next day. Then I got to go out and scoop, and so I wouldn't see her till 6 o'clock that night, or so just trying to find that balance, to where you get the best of both, not overdoing it with one or the other. And now that she's on board with it, it's the work-life balance is work. um, but
But you have to fit in some date nights there
yeah, yeah,
because
and we do.
all of a sudden, all you do is wear scooping stuff. My husband
Right?
was like, "Hey, do you want to put on some regular clothes?" I'm like,
Yeah.
"No,
What's that?
jeans? No way." And
So,
you get dressed up and you go out and leave the business phone at home.
yeah,
Date each
yeah,
other because
yeah.
it's as you were saying, you get so wrapped up, right? You're doing
Mhm.
this, you're doing that, and then stuff becomes almost a business transaction at home. And all of
Yeah,
a sudden you guys are like roommates. And it's like, what up,
right.
homie?
Yeah.
What up, dog?
Yeah.
So yeah, keeping
Yep.
that balance is so important when
It is.
you have a partner.
Yep. It's funny what you were just saying about, so last night my birthday is actually tomorrow.
Well,
So we
happy early birthday.
thank you. So we went out yesterday to our favorite Irish pub, because where else would we go? We're Irish. Um, and we weren't dressing up, but I was like, I'm gonna wear the work hoodie, because I live in it and I'm trying to advertise. It's free advertisement, you know. But it's like you said, you gotta leave it at home sometimes, and just go out and be you. Um, so I think that's something we're definitely going to be able to focus on more now that our schedules are kind of whatever we want them to be.
Yeah, because the business can and will consume you. I was actually just answering a email earlier, and somebody was asking me about a business phone, if it's a good idea to get a separate one,
Mhm.
versus like the having to pay extra money. And I said, listen, if you have the extra money, get a separate business phone. That
Yeah,
way you can leave it in your truck, leave it in your car, and be away from it. Because if
yeah.
if it's all combined, the business will just take you over.
Oh well, yeah, and
Because you'll be thinking like, oh, I got to make some money. Oh, I got to
yeah,
respond back to this person.
I did that. I have a work phone that's right here next to my personal, but I think my mistake is everything on the work phone, aside from phone calls, is also linked to my personal phone. So I catch myself all the time on the personal phone, like, oh, I got an email from somebody, I got to read, when and I think the business is small enough to where you do want to be able to answer people right away, because you don't want them finding another solution to the problem. You want to be that solution. So I do have a habit of instantly jumping on something, and oh, I got to take care of this real quick, give me 10 minutes, and we're supposed to be out the door and on our way to our friend's house. So that's something to work on too, I think.
Yeah, Jim was telling me, Mr. King of Pooh himself, we were
Right.
talking about, having to decide of what's an emergency, right, that needs to be handled now versus what can wait, the hour and a half. So having to figure that out and set boundaries early on
Right.
is important.
Definitely. Mhm.
Yes, yes. All right. So how do you okay, let me backtrack. So you said that there's stuff that you have to respond to right away. Is this like customer complaints, employee issues?
Um, so it's not truly something I got to do right away, but no, it's every time I get alerts on my phone. you'll hate me for saying this, but I'm not a Jobber fan, so I use a different CRM.
Don't say it. I'll
um,
have to edit it out.
oh yeah. But anyway,
I understand though.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, so I get alerts,
Yeah,
obviously. You know, we all get alerts through our CRMs, and I pounce on it, and
right.
I don't need to. But as far as complaints, no. I, I I can't really say I've actually had a true complaint. I
Just
have
wait.
that, yeah, I know they're coming. I had one lady a couple months ago. Um, you know, because again, at the time, this was before my part timer actually, maybe like 2 weeks before the part timer. So horrible timing, but and she signed up and I emailed her and I explained to her, I said, look, I work a full-time job, you know, so there are days, you know, 2 or 3 days out of the month where I have to move you around. And at first she was okay with it, but then she, you know, she told the husband said, well, I mow the grass on this day. So it has to be done the day before or that day. And so she emailed me back and said, well, since you can't give us a specific day every week, we're out. And I get it, you know, that's your preference. That's how I can't fill that requirement. Okay, you know, it is what it is. Um, so not really a complaint, but I guess in a way, it's kind of a hidden complaint. Like, hey, you know, get your act together. You need to service people 5 days a week. Yeah. So
Yeah, but I mean, that person isn't your ideal customer. So it's a good thing that you found out early on instead of
right.
servicing their property and then it became like a big issue. So we've all been through that and it
Yeah,
sucks when that happens because you're like, oh, I wish I could accommodate you. And then if you did, then you would be messing up your own boundaries in your own life and it's not worth it.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So okay, so you haven't had really any customer complaints, no employee issues. You got a unicorn business over
Yeah,
here.
yeah, yeah. You know, the employee was great. He did get bit. Um,
Oh, let's talk about that.
but unfortunately, it was the same day he did his 2 weeks. Unrelated though.
Okay.
Yeah, I already knew that he was looking, so I knew it was coming. I just didn't know when. And he sent me the pictures of the dog bite. He got bit on the hand, and on the the backside of his leg.
Mm,
And he sent me the pictures. I called him right away. We're talking. He's like, I'm okay. It's not as bad as it looks. I said, okay, so no stitches. You don't need to go to the ER, nothing like that. He said, no, I'm okay. I washed it out. We're good. And he said, but since I have you on the phone, here's my 2 weeks notice. And I was like, you know, that hurt, you know? So of course I wondered, well, is that the dog bite talking or is that um, you know, but yeah, so we will work with dogs in the yard, as long as they are friendly dogs and it's not your definition of a friendly dog.
right.
Yeah, my dogs are great, but when a stranger comes over, my dog wants to bite their head off.
Yep.
You know, so is it a friendly dog with strangers? That's the key. You need to be specific when you ask the client, is your dog good with strangers?
You guys that are listening, note that. I'm taking a note right now. And when I get off this, I'm going to actually change that on my
Yeah.
onboarding form.
Yeah, and
Thank you.
I need to do the same. But I always try to ask that question. So I do. There's probably uh, 12 dogs that it's a great part of the day. You know, I look forward to those yards because I'll spend 5 minutes playing with the dogs.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and this particular property, the dog was labeled. I don't think we labeled it a dangerous dog, but the notes on the dog, it did say will nip if you try to pet the dog. I'm like, okay, so that's easy. Don't go near the dog.
Right.
So he was literally picking up like the last pile, and he felt the bite on his leg, and he went to swat, and the dog bit the hand too. And it's always the small ones. You know, I've been bit myself. I got bit by a Chihuahua, which is a little embarrassing, but you know, it is what it is. They sneak up on you.
They're
Uh,
aggressive dogs.
they can be, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And you know, it was a small dog, maybe a 20-pound dog that got him. And it was a total fluke. I didn't realize that this particular client wasn't getting notifications for when we were on the way. He
Oh,
was only getting notifications for when the job was completed.
gotcha.
Um, um, and he just happened to, he didn't even think about, we parked the trucks right in front of the house and you can't miss it. It's big. It has the business logo, it's vinyl wrapped. You can't miss the truck. And this gentleman works from home, and I think he was just on autopilot, and he slid open the slider door and the dogs ran down, and first thing he saw was a stranger and he bit him. Um, so it was just an unfortunate set of circumstances. And I called and talked to him right away, and he couldn't have been more apologetic. He gave us the vet records. So got all that. You want to make sure you document all that stuff, have it for your records just in case. Um, and I always type up a small narrative of what happened too.
That's
Um,
smart. That's smart.
because these things can come back and bite you, for 3 years from now. Yeah, I used a pun there,
But I
but
was gonna say, pun intended.
yeah, right. um, but so far everything's been good. He was very apologetic. I told, hey, it happens. It shouldn't. It happened. It's not the end of the world. I said, but moving forward, now you're going to receive a notice, when we're on the way. Um, and if it happens again, then it's going to be I'm knocking on your door, and I need to visually see those dogs are inside. But I don't think we're going to get to that point. I don't have any clients where that's an issue. I have several clients that have dangerous dogs. They all know to keep them inside. So we don't have issues there. My dog bite. I let my guard down. They're clients, but they're also close friends. Uh,
Ah,
and you wouldn't believe it, but now that dog and I are best friends. Um, it worked out. He'd probably never dream of biting me now. So I guess we've had 2 dog bites in 2 years. That's two too many.
yeah.
But in the grand scheme of things, I think we're doing pretty well.
I mean, it's the nature of the beast, though. I mean,
Yeah.
it's bound to happen. I've
Right.
been bit. Crystal has been bit by a Chihuahua. Um, my old, yeah, I feel everybody's been bit or nipped, but
You're right. Right.
luckily it's been in the winter, right? And the
Yeah.
others, it was winter. They were smaller dogs, and so the teeth didn't actually break the
Right.
like
Yeah.
the snow
Yeah.
equipment.
Yeah. And the Chihuahua, I'm, wearing jeans, and I have a permanent smiley face scar, on my calf now. So maybe I'll get it tattooed or something, but yeah, that one didn't really break the skin either. So definitely fortunate for me.
That's really good. That's good. We've learned a lot, right? So being in the Marines and then doing your other jobs and then in the business. If you could go back to your younger self, to younger Ryan, what's one piece of advice you would give that kid or that
Um,
teenager?
yeah, I think for me, I was a horrible school student. And school isn't everything. I think people around our age, your parents would probably say, "Oh, you go to college. You need to go to college." And I
How
don't.
old are you?
I'm
If you don't mind me,
35.
35? See, we're
Yeah.
the same age. Our generation, our parents said, go to college, go to
Right.
college.
Right. And I'm working on it. I'm 12 years into my 2-year associates. Uh,
Uh,
Slow and steady. Um, but no, I think paying attention in your younger years of schooling, especially if you have, for me, we had economics in high school, and I wish I would have paid more attention in math and those classes that actually taught you a little bit about what's gonna be in your future. um I could care less about English and all the books you had to read in English class. Yeah.
that
uh,
or like home ec, like how to make
yeah.
brownies, how to
Yeah.
make
Yeah.
pudding, like
Right.
oh,
Yeah.
it's or how to sew. Like, no,
Right.
teach us about finances. Teach us how to balance a checkbook more than just
Exactly.
1 week, you
Right.
know?
Yeah. So
And
if I could go back, I would tell my younger self to pay attention to those things. because there's no one true guide to running and operating a business.
It's
I mean,
wild.
you can Google and there's 1,000 of them, but how many are legit, and how many are catered to where you are? Every state's a little different, and
Yeah.
so it was tough, getting off the ground and making sure I'm crossing all my T's and dotting all my I's. And I don't have a strong budgeting background. I'm not the best with it. So yeah, I think I would tell my younger self, hey, pay attention, get better grades.
Learn those numbers.
Right.
All right. Well, cool. I love it. Thank you so much for, chatting with me. If
Yeah.
the listeners want to hang out with you and they want to hang out with you online, right?
Right.
Keep up with you. Where can they find you online, social media
Uh,
wise?
so Facebook and Instagram are my big ones. Facebook is Coastal P Scooper. It wouldn't let me say pooper. Facebook has an issue with that word apparently. As
Yes.
as of 2021 anyway. Um, so Coastal P Scooper on Facebook, Instagram is Coastal Pooper Scooper. I do have a YouTube and a TikTok. I don't use them. I plan to. That is another thing I want to do is get out there more on the video world and with content creation and stuff. So same with those two. It's Coastal Pooper Scooper. I just, like I said, went ahead and reserved them so nobody took them from me.
Very, very smart. That's the way to do it. I
Yep.
actually, when I was setting up Kroopin's Poopin Scoopin, I did all the stuff. I didn't reserve Kroopin's Poopin Scoopin.com for probably a year.
Right.
And my dad said something and he was like, "Why is your website poopinscoopin.com?" I'm like, I don't know. I just wanted it." He was like, "What about your business name?" I was like, I didn't reserve that." He's like, "If you don't go reserve that right now."
Right.
I did. I
Yeah.
did.
Well, I think, fortunately for you, it's not a very popular last name. I wouldn't think.
No.
I've never, yeah. So yeah, you don't run there's a Coastal Pooper Scoopers. I think it's in Florida, just with an S on the end. And I didn't discover that until well into running this business myself. So I don't, maybe I need to trademark it or something just to avoid something there. But
Yeah, you just reach out to it's like a trademark and licensing lawyer. Just
yeah,
do one like local in your area. I
right.
was told do not use legal. I can't talk.
Zoom.
Legal Zoom.
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't done it yet. I'm thinking about doing it myself.
Right.
All right, well, I'll go ahead and I'll include all those links down in the show notes. Is there any last words for me or for the listeners?
Um, yeah, I think I always kind of like to end with our society isn't one, I said earlier, I'm not the kind of guy that can just work a career for 20, 25 years and retire. And we don't live in a society where that's possible anymore. At
Mm-mm.
least not for our age.
Nope.
Uh, you know, you know, who knows if our social security is going to be there, but we won't go there. But so, I think find your dream and chase it. You don't, that dream's not going to chase you back. So if you want that financial freedom, you got to chase it yourself.
What do they say? You're either building somebody else's dream or building your dream. The
Yeah.
option's yours.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Woo, that was good. That was good. That was some fire. I appreciate it. All right. So we're
Yeah.
going to wrap things up. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, do all the internet things. And new episodes drop on Mondays. And until next time, bye.
All right.